Hello and welcome, gamers. Tomorrow, I Am Krakow gets underway. Myself and Scriven, we kickstart on the B stream as well, so no better time to discuss everything getting underway in towards stage 1 of this event. We'll probably do a second video as well for stage 2, but for now we can kickstart with a few games and do a brief little overview, summary, fantasy as well of what we're expecting heading in towards stage 2, in stage 1 before stage 2 and the playoffs. So let's dive into details already. Let's kickstart things. These are the teams. You know the drill at this point as well, how these IMs work. Of course, we're back in Krakow. It's been a minute since we've actually had events in Krakow. Of course, this is moving from Katowice to Krakow now as well. Pretty interesting, right? There's a lot of storylines coming in towards this one. Paravision just off the back of the Blast bounty win. It's basically a thing of can they go back to back, right? Which is kind of interesting. Obviously now the highest rated team at this event. Prior to the win, I think they would have been around where sort of Pain, Passion UA were. I think they jumped from about 15th to 6th now as well with that win. Fantastic start to the year for them. They're looking super sick. Obviously, definitely one that we're going to be keeping an eye out for as well. G2, we've got to see what this side's all about. 3D Max looking to bounce back as well after a poor start to the year, or at least an underwhelming start by, I would say, their standards. Liquid, I still think there's teething issues there. We're still trying to find out really what's going on with the side. They're still quite unconvincing, to be frank. Aurora, massively underwhelming at Blast Bounty. They're looking to bounce back at, an IEM and really kind of set the precedent for the year properly as well. Passion UA, there's still bits to like about this side. I still don't know really what the ceiling's going to look like for this team. Pain, ranking-wise, still not doing too badly, but I do think they dropped off in terms of notoriety. You look at kind of like the early to mid part of last year, they were a bit of a force to be reckoned with at these sort of tournaments. They would, kind of generally make it to stage 2, threaten some top teams, cause a couple of upsets. Now I don't really even see them being that scary, to be perfectly frank. And obviously they've gone through roster changes as well, but I'm still not super convinced on that side. Bait have gone through a really interesting roster change. They, of course, got rid of Head Trick. They brought in Segukawa. Now, if any of you don't know who he is, I wouldn't blame you. He has never played a game on HLTV ever. Not on a mix, not in, a random kind of tournament. He has never played at HLTV officially. He's 16 years of age, and he's come through Bates Academy. Bates Academy played one season of ESA Advanced, where they finished 7-5, so it was mid, to say the least. It's a massive step up in the shoes of Head Trick as well, who, granted, I think people wanted probably a little bit more out of Head Trick, but that is a huge step to fill. So a lot of eyes are probably going to be on him, the 16-year-old, right? It's a big step to go straight to IM Krakow. So we'll see how that pans out. Astralis, new look Astralis. I say new look, obviously got to see them at Blast Bounty. Underwhelming there, but there's still bits to like about this side. I'm really interested to see what Fuzi really can do in this team. I think he's probably going to become considerably more important as time goes by. So we'll see how that pans out. Gamer Legion, of course, they've gone through changes. I'm still not super convinced with kind of Snacks, but I do feel like Gamer Legion is a little bit more his level than what it was, of course, on G2. That should be interesting, but I'm not expecting maybe fireworks. Stage 2 maybe, but I don't know, anything past that feels relatively unlikely. Heroic, they've got Alcrum back now instead, of course, they had Youngster as a stand-in. I thought Youngster looked pretty good on the AWP, to be perfectly honest. So let's see what Alcrun's like when he's back now in towards the fray with kind of the proper lineup, the way it's meant to be. Legacy, obviously tail end of last year, we're looking super sick. CAC into PGO Bucharest. Bucharest even. Yeah, they look super cool. Look really threatening. I hope we get that Legacy back out because this side is always really fun to watch when they get going. You look at Dumao and Lato as being the two kind of main names on this team that are always quite interesting. So we'll see how they can pan out. Round out the final 4 with Foot. This is a super interesting team, of course, the ex-Navi Junior core, but a lot of really good talent here. Demon, of course, is generally the name that most people look towards. He's incredibly good. I think Krabeni is a super sick IGL, fragging IGL, really gets into the thick of it. Zugis as well, I think, is also super cool, really gets going. So that team, I think, is always quite dangerous, always quite threatening. You can never really underestimate them. NIP, of course, they've got Khan in this side. Still looking to see what kind of a move this is going to be like from Inner Circle, of course, to this team, whether it really pans out for him. I'm not super convinced by it just yet, but we'll see. I'm not going to count them out. Of course, Exaspersky and Wrinkle, of course, the two kind of main names that I'm looking towards on the NRP side. NRG as well. I don't think it's really too much to hate on NRG. I think they're doing their thing, right? They're in North America. They're basically like the second fiddle of like kind of the best of the rest. When you talk about North America, it's like them and M80 are kind of being the top 2 in most competitions over there. I also think they're quite threatening. I don't really know what long term they're going to look like. I don't really know what internationally they're going to look like. I kind of feel like they might be in a similar spot to like where FlyQuest are, kind of, where it's like you're always going to be guaranteed to make the majors because you're so good in your region. But actually, can you do anything internationally? And no, obviously we saw them at Budapest. They went 2 and 3 at Budapest. Didn't make it to stage 2. I mean, making it to stage 1's great, but obviously this is a side that want to be competitive. I just don't know if they have the chops to be competitive, to be perfectly honest. But again, not going to count them out just yet. And then BC Game as well. This is one I think that a lot of people are going to be looking at. Of course, simple, back on land with the Portuguese core, alongside Electronic. First outings aren't exactly looking fantastic. This is a side that looked very janky, but it's simple. It's the GOAT, right? The greatest Counter-Strike Go player of all time. Does he still have it? Is really the question on a lot of people's minds as well. So we'll have to see. You know the drill, of course. Top 8 make it to stage 2. And stage 2, of course, again, pretty interesting. That's where all the big boys reside, right? Your Vitals, Furia, Falcons, Mals, FaZe, Na'Vi, Spirit, and the Mongols as well. And we'll come to that when we end up talking about stage 2 a little bit later as the tournament progresses. But we'll carry on talking about stage 1 for now. And I'll run through kind of some of these teams that in the way the bracket works who I think is going to make it through. So Aurora Gamer Legion. I'm actually going to go Aurora here as well. As much as the start tier wasn't great, I feel like it was a real kick up the arse that we need to get back to where their level is. So we'll see if that's the case. Heroic Paravision all day. Love this team. I said in the previous video as well for Blast Bounty, I said with that Paravision Spirit game, I told in the comments that I smell an upset. And I got the upset. Granted, I didn't expect them to win the tournament, but still super impressed with what Jame and Co are doing. Nota is without a doubt the guy that you look towards on the side for me. I love what Nota brings to the table. Finals MVP, without a shadow of a doubt, was super sick. I would say one of the best players, if not the best player of the tournament. I know Nico on the MVP, but Nota's my honourable MVP. And so I looks really comfortable in this team too. He's given a lot of freedom, a lot of space, and I like what I see. Liquid NIP. I'm going to go Liquid here for this one. I'm still not super convinced by NIP at the moment. So yeah, I'm going to go Liquid in this one. Passion UA G2. I think it's going to be a pretty simple one for G2, to be honest. I think they're a real threatening team in this stage 1, to be honest. One of kind of like the teams that should coast through, to be perfectly honest. Legacy BC Game. I'm going Legacy. As much as I think a lot of simple people would like BC Game to go through, I have a feeling BC Game might not pick up a win here, to be perfectly honest. I'm not convinced by that Portuguese core. So I'm going to go Legacy to win that one. I think Legacy are another team that should make it through the stage 1. Foot 3D Max. I love both of these teams, but I think I've got to go 3D Max here. I think Foot have probably got more firepower, but 3D Max are so much deeper when it comes towards the strat calling. I really like what this team have been doing. Maka looks a lot more freed up now. He's not calling anymore. And then Gravity's taking the reins, the youngster, but it's a fresh look. So I'm liking what I'm seeing there. I'm going to go 3D Max in this one. Astralis Pain, I'm going to go Astralis for that one. Like I said, I'm not really convinced by Pain at all at the moment. They don't look very threatening, to be perfectly honest. And then Bait NRG, even with the youngster, the new guy, I'm going to go Bait. I think MPL brings enough to this team that I want to have faith. And from what I know of Segokawa, keep an eye on him. He seems like quite a flashy player. Very mechanically skilled. He's 16. He's very, very raw in terms of his talent. I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table. So if all those pans out, it should be an Aurora Paravision next game. I'm going to go Paravision there. So Paravision book their spot through. But I think Aurora should book it through second time round and kind of that lower. Then it would be a Liquid G2. I think G2 take that one. They'll get kind of that next spot. Legacy 3D Max. That one's tough. But I think I'd probably actually go 3D Max there. But it's a rematch of CIC in the finals as well. So I think I'm going to go 3D Max in that one. As much as they weren't really great at Blast Bounty, I just think they're a side that I've always slept on, especially at the moment. So I'm going to go 3D Max. I like the style of Counter-Strike they're playing. And then Astralis Bait to round it out. I'm actually going to go Astralis for that one as well. So they're my teams making it through. And then of the ones who kind of like get dropped down, I think Aurora should make it. NIP and Passion UA is probably a bit of a difficult one, to be perfectly honest. I don't actually really know in that sense. Maybe I throw a bit of a curveball and go Passion UA there, to be fair. BC Game and Foot, I'm going to go Foot in that one. Hence why I think BC Game might not pick up a win. And then it would be Pain NRG, and I would go Pain in that one. So there's my teams that I've got going through. You kind of got the gist of how it works in terms of the bracket. We do have a bit of fantasy as well to bring you. Of course, like I mentioned, this is how it's going to look in the stage 2 when teams come through. I think, of course, the fact that we've kind of got Spirit and Furia as sort of like waiting in the wings would be quite interesting. Opposite side of the bracket as well should be quite spicy. This is going to be my fantasy team. I'm starting strong with Nota. the easy first pick. I didn't care how much he cost. I love what Nota brings, both on the CT and the T side. I think he's so flashy, so fun to watch. He's so important for Paravision as well. Him and Zwei is kind of a dynamic duo, going to be really sick this year, and I hope they can keep up the form off the back of Blast Bounty. I've gone for Fuzi. I went for a double AWP setup, but obviously you can only pick one AWPer. But I do actually kind of like what Fuzi brings. I think he's a really solid CT player. So I've gone for him. I've gone for Demon. He's just the best player on foot. He's just mechanically unbelievable, and I do think foot will make it through. And they'll probably play an extra game, so it might help him stats-wise. G2 should coast through. Some bias on the AWP. Shouldn't really have too much of an issue. And then I've gone Krabetti entry frag. I've gone double foot, which I know sounds a bit rogue, but honestly, it was money reasons. I think I had between like monetary speaking players left. I think it was like Krabenny or like Major. I didn't really have a lot of choice. So I went for Krabenny. He does a lot on the T side. He does a lot of entry fragging 4 foot. He's basically a pretty selfless IGL in a sense, you know, kind of the same way Carrigan's done in the past. But he's actually, I think, a pretty decent fragging IGL by all metrics. So I don't think sleep on him. I think he can bring decent stats to the table. That opening game against 3D Max is quite tough, though. They're such a brutal team to play against. They really slow the game down. They're really awkward. They're really uncomfortable in that sense. I don't know if they're going to love that, but we'll see. Either way, it is a pretty interesting kind of like first big tournament of the year. Boss Bounty is always a little bit of like a nice intro into the year, but I Am Krakow, of course, is the big hitter. So let's see how this one pans out. I'm looking forward to it, of course. Tune in for the B stream tomorrow, kickstarting. We're doing the Paravision game to open things up. I'm really looking forward to it. It's always an honor to be involved in the IEMs as well. So shout out ESL for bringing us on for one time. It's going to be fun. Tune in, B stream, nice and early. I think it's 10 a.m. UK start, 11 a.m. if you're on the continent, and if you're elsewhere in the world, figure it out. You know how it is. Anyway, thank you for joining. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. See you in a bit.